is your February 24 soul story. It's Romy here. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. If you have a sun rising or your moon is in the sign, then you might find this resonates for you. Hopefully gives you some insights to help you navigate through the month ahead. So we are opening up this month for you with the energy of the Seven of Wands. And whatever is distracting, depleting, or trying to dominate you is going to be revealed in a new way this month. What I mean by that is that you become very clear-minded about what it's going to take to make an adjustment and support and honour really the change that I think you've been mulling over for some time. You know, when you get to the point where you're like, something's got to give. And, you know, the body reveals often what the mind struggles with. And when we're not in conversation with our whole self, then, you know, we begin to suffer physically, mentally, emotionally. And the challenge that that Seven of Wands is bringing through, I think, is well known and well understood by you. And February, you see, is a month where it's incredibly progressive. It's strikingly unconventional in terms of some of the ways that it's bringing things to our attention. And it also has a tremendous emphasis around healing. And the healing surfaces from a perspective of, you know, we become really aware of the relationships especially, and how they are limiting us, or the ways in which they are triggering us, and how that kind of feeds into like a wider story that we have about ourselves. So it's a really complex, layered, interesting few weeks ahead. And, you know, what you're able to achieve by that is confronting truths about your own satisfaction, Libra, and really preparing to see what it's going to take in order to kind of bring about a change to that. So early on in the month, we've got Venus trining with Uranus coming in on the 7th, bringing them surprise news, information, events. And with that, you know, there's something that's worth pursuing, worth considering. You're definitely in some deliberation about what it might mean for you, but it seems to arrive at that perfect synchronistic moment when you're already feeling a little dissatisfied about something. You're already considering what, you know, what action you might want to take. And when this comes up, it almost feels like it's a little bit of an answer in some regard. And so you do appreciate, I think, even when this comes about, that it's not necessarily straightforward. And it may even feel like it's a bit of a curveball because it's not something you had entirely considered or anticipated would be arriving yet. But there's something about February where things are being brought forward a little bit. And, you know, from that perspective, there's definitely a sense of needing to act now, at the same time as not sort of making an irrational, impulsive decision or response to something, okay? You're definitely looking both in the wands and the coins here in an element of just thoughtful consideration. So we approach the Aquarius new moon coming in on the 9th, and we've got a square with Uranus. Now, Uranus is really dominant through the month, so again, the likelihood of these surprise events and things kind of stirring up and even, you know, producing things that feel a little bit shocking is highly likely. But that Aquarius new moon lighting up that 5th house for you, and, you know, as you really contemplate pleasure in your life, and as you get some incredibly inspired original ideas about you, your pathways forward, and perhaps something that feels maybe even a little bit adventurous, a little bit not risky as such, but something that you're like, gosh, could I really do this? Could I say this? Could I go for this? And that kind of pressure point from Uranus, you know, you will almost interpret as a feeling of it's kind of now or never. And it's certainly with the first part of February and the plethora of energy that's still in Capricorn, actually, you know, a time where you can get quite focused and disciplined in order to be able to achieve. But what it does mean, as I said, is that you're going to have to get really clear about what's distracting or depleting you, because if you're going to kind of double down on something, or you're going to take that bold move, that risk, you're going to launch, prepare, put yourself out there in some regard. If you're kind of coming at it from a place of almost being on the back foot a little bit, because there's some aspect of you just feeling, not quite 100%, then it's just something to be mindful of, because I think you can put a couple of things in place that will make a tremendous difference quite quickly to the overall balance of you physically, mentally, emotionally. There's also this feeling for you in February, Libra, about hold your nerve. Okay, so if you are in a place of waiting, if there's something that you are again considering and working through, and whatever the external sort of circumstances or influences or how you might be feeling into things, if you are feeling a little bit in limbo, or that something has kind of faltered a little bit and doesn't seem to be progressing in the same way that you thought it might, this phrase, hold your nerve, is coming through really strongly. Now, we will celebrate the Year of the Dragon right on that new moon, 10th of the month. The directiveness, the focus, the intention, the courage that comes through is really significant when we sort of tune into that, that energy. What I think it's important to remember when we go into kind of analysis mode, especially if we're trying to analyze someone else's behavior, who in themselves doesn't take the time to analyze their own behavior, then this is only going to cause you more friction within yourself. It's only going to cause changes to your energy field and not theirs. So there's something about the constant redirection that's required, and it's an interesting one, because I think February is calling us out to acknowledge, to face, to have the conversations, to clear things up, to sort things out. But if you don't have a willing participant, or you feel that there's somehow energies that are thwarting that from being able to occur, then the only logical answer is always to resolve what's out of balance within the self. And there's always work to be done in that regard. And I think that the Hanged Man here, when it offers you an opportunity to have a change in perception around yourself as you're around that new moon energy, this is also incredibly beneficial to you being able to sort of find the additional courage required to move forward in a certain direction. Okay, the sort of all roads lead back to the self, which is always the case, but in recognition of that, one of the other things that you need to remember is you're not the person from your past. Your reality is different now that you're different. So don't keep judging yourself or holding yourself to account based on who you were or circumstances that have been around you up to this point, because everything has changed. And maybe you just need to sit down, take a moment, take stock, and realize kind of how that has actually produced like a whole different trajectory for you and a whole different version of you that you're yet to kind of fully get to know. Now we come into the stellium of energy in Aquarius. 13th Mars moves into the sign, then Venus on the 16th. If you're celebrating Valentine's, there's some nice aspects, and definitely this feeling of kind of doing things a bit differently. You might be quite surprised at how people approach things. You yourself might feel a little bit more open-minded to the type of experiences that surface around that time. You've got strength showing up here, and again I think in the waiting period, or in regards to you trying to process or work through something to ensure that you arrive at the right answer for yourself, you are being given support in the seen and the unseen. As she holds the canary here, it's a little reminder that this is, as I said, you confronting truths about your own level of satisfaction. Sometimes we can just put up with something and we can go like, yeah, it's okay, don't really want to rock the boat, but nonetheless, there's so much more that could be available to you. And what would that look like? Dare you even go in that direction? And sometimes it can be a difficult conversation to have with ourselves, because if it feels like I've settled for so long, and then there's a possibility that this might still be available for me, but it does require me to be confident and bold in terms of how I deal and approach with something. And maybe I've just listened for too long to the kind of outside, and like sort of insights that people have given me about myself, about what's possible for me. And so there's this huge kind of like turning point, I feel, that's kind of going on within yourself. But as part of that, Libra, this month, February is really asking you to, self-reflect on what success means to you, because in all honesty, you can't allow more happiness into your life if you're not clear on what that looks like for you. It may sound super obvious, but in any area and sphere of your life, take a moment to just sit back and go, what does a successful relationship look like for me? A successful, work, career, or, a life, or a dream, like anything. It just sort of, it needs to be revisited, so that in those terms that you kind of outline for yourself, you're making it a little bit easier to be able to recognize when things show up that are in alignment with that, or indeed how far away you are from it. Now, as we move towards Pisces energy, Sun shifts into the sign on the 18th. We have the North Node in Chiron conjunction exact on the 19th, arc of influence through the 25th. This is a powerful moment for just kind of seizing and taking your power back. And, we can come up against situations where we heal through a crisis point. So around that time, something might just be kind of really disruptive in your thoughts or in and around you in terms of what's going on. But there's an action plan here that can be put into motion. And it then leads us directly to the 222 portal, where we've got this supersized Venus conjunct Mars energy, big relationship issues being discussed and put on the table at this point. And remember, as you work through this portal, it's trying to offer you a different insight. It's trying to get you to come at things from a higher energy, a higher awareness. So what would that look like? What would the version of you that's healed so much and that is in deep awareness of the self, that has more compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, that has the energy of clarity about what the future or success looks like in a way that will feel peaceful to you? And then you're going to be able to approach whatever comes up around that time, and whomever is connected in some of these kind of soul stories that you yourself are working on, and you're going to have the strength to be able to do what it takes, to say what is necessary, and to feel, to truly feel and acknowledge like what your body is telling you. Yeah, because there's like a mirroring going on here. The body can be a more truthful mirror to an experience often than the mind, because the mind, depending on wherever it's at, will interpret the experience. For example, you can have that kind of butterfly sensation and it could be interpreted as excitement, or it can be interpreted as fear. So the mind will go in any one direction based on kind of what's going on and how much the ego's in control. But the body's having that physical sensation going, hey, there's a message here, can we listen and tune in? So around that time, pay close attention, because we're then going to work towards the Virgo full moon. And of course, we understand from a physicality perspective, this is one of those moons that will always reveal to us, the physical effects of stuff that's going on. If we're constantly feeling depleted, if we've got the headaches, if we've got the back pain, what have we been doing? Who have we been spending time with? Now, Venus squares Jupiter at that Virgo full moon, and you want to get down into the details to understand, how I value myself and the way in which I'm being held back with that, because I know I'm ready to grow and evolve. I know there's something here more for me. I'm ready for like the next big step, or something to kind of show itself in a way that is like, yes, that's exactly what I felt should happen, or what I expected was on its way. And that pressure point again is going to show you something, reveal to you something, a detail that got lost in translation, if you like. Okay, Nine of Wands here says there's a perseverance required. We also have to kind of clear the space, clear the air a little bit. So in and around that full moon, there might be something that you have to kind of backtrack on a little bit. Sometimes we can be a bit harsh and critical, or you might feel that energy coming at you a little bit around that Virgo full moon. Nonetheless, what I'm really sensing and feeling for you as you hold your nerve and you push through and you push forward, you're going to get some sense of like an insight or a validation. And sometimes we have to kind of really get it, like push it out of someone, force it out of them a little bit. And it, you know, we're not trying to say, you know, manipulate or coerce, but, you know, we just have to like not give up sometimes, because we understand and we know that there's something there of value. So especially when you're kind of in those situations and any kind of connection or dynamic that you've got going on in February, and you feel like, you know, I need to get to the bottom of this, or I know that this is how they feel, or I know that this is information that they've got that can be beneficial for me. So in any way that there's that kind of a interpretation going on for you, you will find a breakthrough. You will get a breakthrough. And I really like that, because it also leads you to feeling like, okay, now I've got a bit of a clear plan on what needs to happen. And, you know, this sort of layered experience of February, where we're being told to kind of act now, but at the same time, don't act too quickly. We're being told to kind of deal and to face and to acknowledge things, but at the same time, you know, make sure that we're properly working on the self before we jump in to try to, you know, have a direct conversation with another. So, you know, there's all these sort of polarity experiences that are taking place, and nothing about it feels predictable. But in its unpredictability, that, you know, could even create this sense of feeling a little bit unnerved at times, it also opens up your life in ways that you couldn't possibly foresee. And that's one of the things I want you to take from February, that the kind of unconventionality and the surprises and the twists and turns that it's delivering at any given moment are set to kind of sort of almost prepare you for this like eclipse season that's coming in March and April. And you know, you'll look back and you'll be like, that was quite a game-changing month. You know, there was a lot that kind of I came to understand. There was a lot I put into motion. There was a lot that I was able to express. And I was really on board with the need to do things differently, because that's what Aquarius is asking of us now, isn't it? We need to do things differently. And we're ready for that. We're actually open and willing to do it. But sometimes we're just like, okay, I need a bit of help to figure out how. Yeah, or in what areas, and what that looks like and what that feels like. And a lot of the kind of spiritual signposts showing up are to support in that revelation and understanding for you. Yeah. So if you're new to the channel, our last 3 cards we cover in the extended version of the reading, Libra. You'll find that in the comment and description box below. Talk for another 30 minutes, and we'll also look at a personal card and a relationship card for you, just to give you a little bit more insight into your month ahead. It's a way to support the channel, and I appreciate you if you're investing in the extended readings. I'm just going to go ahead and clarify the main cards for us just now and see what messages are wanting to reveal themselves for the direction of that conversation. We've got the Moon and the Magician coming in. 7 of Coins. We've got the 5 of Cups and the 5 of Pentacles, High Priestess, Emperor, King of Wands and Temperance coming in here, the Hermit, Judgment. Okay, what about this 9 of Wands, the Tower, and the 9 of Swords? Let's put one more there, 3 Wands, yeah, okay. So all the decks that I use are listed in the comment and description box underneath, Libra. We're going to look at Life Soul Vision Oracle, which is my own deck. So you can check the sacred title, ways to work with me, and all the other gifts that I create to soothe your soul over on my website, romywiser.com. Okay. The Gathering, beautiful. Sacred Soul Union. We've got Casting Out Constellations, Eclipse Revelations, Throat Energy, Spirals of Love and Grief. Okay, and we're going to have a look at the Rose Oracle, so message for Libra for the month of February. Okay, you have the Anointed, Answer the Call, Leadership, Empowerment, Soul Gifts. We're going to explore this message along with the rest of your reading over in the extended. I hope you'll join me there. Take good care. Have a beautiful month of February, and I will see you again next time, Libra. Bye.